Remake Rewind.
All right, you ding-dongs, this is Remake Rewind. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, you guys are listening to Remake Rewind, the podcast where we decide if remakes or reboots should have happened. As always, I'm Mike, and with me I've got my two co-hosts. I've got Double D.
What up, Mike?
What up, Ho? How you doing, little buddy?
I'm doing pretty well, sir. How are you?
How's your fantasy football going?
Let's not talk about it.
I'm glad you're losing.
Thanks. I love you too.
Alex, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, actually. Doing well.
How was your little trip, whatever you did?
It was great. I went
you
to
go
Seattle, went to PAX, played some games, then came
That's
back,
cool.
sadly.
What games did you play?
I played Darksiders 3, what do I call it? The Resident Evil game that's
Nice.
being remade. Yeah.
No, Resident Evil 2?
Yeah.
Nice. You play as Leon Kennedy?
Yeah, it was a long ass wait though. People wait like 2 hours for it. I mean, I waited 2 hours for games. But yeah, it was fun.
What about you, Mike? I know you started your new job. How's it?
It's good. It's definitely nice to be out of retail. I can say this. When you're not in retail, break rooms and bathrooms are way nicer.
I imagine everything's much nicer.
I never say where I work on these things just in case I don't want to get fired because I say some offensive things. But I work for a major commercial audio video company. We are actually a manufacturer, so it's really nice. It's super professional. I started at a weird time where we just announced a lot of new products, so all of our managers and stuff were at conventions. So for my first 2 weeks, I've had like nothing to do because none of my managers were there to train me, and I'm technically in middle management. And there have been no managers to train me, so I've literally just been like surfing the internet for 3 weeks. So
that's kind of awesome.
I can only really look at audio video stuff because they filter pretty much everything. So it's been fine, but it's definitely nice. Like the toilet paper is really nice in the bathroom. It's really
no more
clean.
single ply.
It's that 2-ply.
The break room is really clean. That's the thing. Like when you work in retail, you have a bunch of people who don't give a shit about anything.
Yep.
So they just like destroy the break room. Where here, it's like the break room's cleaned every hour. There's free coffee all day. It's great. I've gone corporate, guys.
I don't drink coffee, so
I didn't drink coffee until I had to start getting up at 5 a.m. to get to work on time.
oh well. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I get paid a lot more than you ding-dongs do now.
No, it's as expected. It's pretty expected. I'm brown.
Yeah. Ooh. Ooh. I just meant because you guys work retail.
Yeah. Yeah,
'Cause you're
we
brown.
all know the undertones you had there, Mike.
The racial undertone. Shit. Well, let's. I'm gonna change subject and get
We've
to
heard
our actual
about
subject. Let's get to the movies. What are we gonna be talking about
We're
this
talking
week?
about The Evil Dead and the 2013 remake Evil Dead.
Yeah, we is. So, have you guys seen these movies before?
I have seen the original. I have never seen the remake.
What about you, Alex?
Oh, hell yeah. I've seen the original multiple times, and I've actually only seen the remake once, but I did like it.
So I'm a big Army of Darkness fan. So I saw Army of Darkness first when I was a kid, and I didn't realize that.
Ash.
Yeah, with Ash, I didn't realize that Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2 were movies that were related to this. Like I remember vividly seeing the Evil Dead DVD cover when I worked at Target in the electronics department, and at like Blockbuster and Hollywood Video. I remember always seeing those covers and never putting it together that those were one franchise until I was in about high school, and then I went and watched the other two. So I'm actually a pretty big fan of the original series. I got really into it once I saw Spider-Man, and Sam Raimi directed Spider-Man, so I got really into it. My best friend, or at least the guy who was the best man at my wedding, he's my best friend. I don't know why I'm trying to save Double D's feelings a little bit.
I didn't even think about it, Mike.
Oh, okay. Well, I just want you to know that you're not my best friend.
Okay, I'm fine.
Noted.
We're
you
in different
either,
tax
Alex.
brackets now, so I don't think it's allowed.
Yep. But my best friend is super into these movies as well. I actually saw the new one in theaters twice. Not because I wanted to. I did want to see the movie. I saw it once, and then my friend came from out of town from Seattle, and he's like, hey, let's go see this movie. And I had seen it the day prior. and my friend just came from out of town, didn't tell me he was coming. So I saw this movie like twice in 24 hours in theaters. So I've definitely seen them. I'm not a big fan of like gory movies, but I do like these movies for some reason.
So it's actually funny that you said, like, I had a similar introduction to Evil Dead. So I watched Evil Dead 2 as a kid, and I was like, oh, this is funny, it's great. And it's got like because like I grew up watching R-rated movies, so it's like it's got that gore aspect, but it's not too serious. And then I remember at a library, I saw like it said Evil Dead. I was like, oh, this is the first one. I didn't know there was obviously.
It's
so like
the same movie.
I watched it as a kid. I was like, oh, well, this is I don't know if I'm supposed to be watching this. This is really dark. But as I grew up, I like learned to enjoy it more. But yeah,
it's kind of strange how Evil Dead is it's a weird movie because it's like super independent film. It wasn't even filmed on 35 millimeter initially. It was filmed on like Super 8, and then they had to pay to get it blown up to 35 millimeter so it can actually be distributed. They ran out of money while filming this movie several times, and they'd have to like stop for months at a time to go borrow money. They literally went door to door. They went to businesses and like borrowed money. They used got high interest loans at one point. Bruce Campbell actually got like a second mortgage on, or no, he used his family's house as collateral for a loan to help pay for this movie. Like, it's insane how much like they put into this, and they did everything themselves. It's also crazy because one of the Coen brothers actually edited the movie. I can't remember if it's Ethan or Joel, but one of the Coen brothers actually helped with this. And then they became like really good friends, and they made a couple movies together early in their career. But yeah, it's a really interesting story how this movie got made, and with like on zero budget, and they did all the special effects themselves and all the stunts themselves.
A true tale of perseverance.
It really is. Why don't we just start getting into the movie? Who has the summary for this one?
I'm doing the summary for the first one. I think Alex has gone first too many times. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. This one is from Chris Seeley. 5 friends go up to a cabin in the woods where they find unspeakable evil lurking in the forest. They find a tome called the Necronomicon, Book of the Dead, and the taped translation of the text. Once the tape is played, the evil is released. One by one, the teens are possessed. With only one remaining, it is up to him to survive the night and battle the evil dead.
Yeah, okay.
Pretty good at that.
yeah.
It's pretty fucked up that like this whole thing started when they didn't even do anything wrong. They just played a tape from a tape recorder.
I love that though. I love that. I wish it was in the remake, but I love that. It's like because like
the tape does show up in the remake, but
it's like
it's in the credits.
The way it happens is dumb. Like because like I feel like for horror movies, it's something like they usually do. Like, oh, I'm gonna just read this description really quick and just release the demon. But this one's like he just played a tape. They just played a tape, and that's what happened.
Yeah, it's I guess it's kind of like The Ring, where it's like you just watch something you didn't realize what's gonna happen, and now you're fucked.
Yeah.
The thing that was hard about watching, so I've seen this movie at this point. Once I discovered it in late high school, early college, I haven't watched this movie a ton. I do own it. I own all the Evil Dead movies except for the new one. It's hard going back to this one after watching Army of Darkness first. Because Army of Darkness, like, Ash is a fucking badass. Like, he's really good at fighting. He's really good at killing. And then he's such a bitch. Yeah,
that's the perfect
he's such a
description
bitch in
for
this
him,
movie.
He just sucks.
It's a good character growth though, because like you see him change. Like,
it kind of
the growth is weird though, because it's not a true trilogy when you think about it. So the first movie was really like guerrilla style filming and just whatever we can do to get it done. There's literally, I can't remember exactly which scene. I notice it, but I always forget when I see it, like which part it is. But there's a part where like you literally see, like there's a bad edit point where the Scotty says something and then his line, like he stops mid-word and then his like head tilts back because he flubbed the line and they just but they didn't do a good job editing it out. So the second movie, Evil Dead 2, is basically a remake of the Evil Dead with a few less characters but with a little bit better of a budget and better special effects and a little bit more production value. And then Army of Darkness is just a completely different thing. Like, this movie was meant to be a serious scary movie. And because it's kind of cheesy and the acting's not so great, you know, a lot of people laugh at it. So in the second movie, they kind of merged it and had a little bit of humor. And in the third movie, it's just a straight action comedy. So I don't even know if you would call it growth, because it's a very disjointed franchise.
Yeah.
Sorry for just shitting on your point.
I mean, I think we're just talking about this one specific movie, though.
We are. I mean, but it's hard to not talk about the others because, you know.
Well, be
Ash
professional,
is,
Mike. Talk about this one.
Ash is such a huge part of like pop culture now, and you know they had the TV show that just ended, so it's just hard not to talk about the other stuff. I'm a big fan of it, but you're right. Let's get into this one, guys. Any notice?
Excited here, Mike? You're a little like the movie. You're going over the top.
I got a boner, man. No, I'm just kidding. I don't have I don't have it.
Thank you for clarifying that.
So what are some highlights for you guys?
I'm gonna go ahead and say the rape from the woods.
Whoa.
Yeah, that was a very interesting part for me.
I think we should have probably done a
trigger warning.
You can
trigger warning. Thank you.
You can throw that in post edit.
Yeah. So yeah, trigger warning, guys. This deals with a lot of demonic shit. So if you don't like demonic shit, don't listen. And there is some botany rape.
Yeah.
So if you don't like rape by plants, maybe skip this episode as well. But yeah, there's your trigger warning.
Thank you.
And we're gonna talk about the movie now.
I'm gonna go ahead and talk about that again. So yeah, Cheryl. I think it was Cheryl. It was Cheryl, right?
It is Cheryl.
Got raped by the woods.
Yeah, it's really fucked up and weird.
It was really weird, but it definitely had my attention. I was so confused.
I was super confused about that the first time I saw it as well.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen this since I was a child. Like I used to go over to my cousin's house and watch scary movies because my uncle's a movie buff and he loves watching scary movies with me and my cousin because we're so young. But so I would always go over there and watch scary movies, and The Evil Dead was one of them. And I haven't seen it since then, so I was probably like 10 years old or so, probably less than that. And I don't remember that part at all, but I was so confused seeing it this time.
Sam Raimi actually regrets filming that now, and you know, I don't remember when he said it, but it was in an interview. He's like, yeah, you know, I was 19 years old, I was trying to be edgy and push the envelope, and you know, I really regret that now. It doesn't have a place now. But then this was prior to the remake being made, and then they had it in the remake as well. But I mean, that scene's done really well considering. Like, I'm assuming what they did was they had the stuff wrapped around her and then pulled it off and then filmed it in reverse,
Played it in reverse.
or filmed it and then put it on reverse to make it look like they wrapped. I forgot that there was nudity in this movie, and I just watched this movie like a year ago. I always forget that there's nudity in like older movies. There's a couple boobies.
Couple of them.
Yep. But yeah, it's a really weird, fucked up scene.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I don't know that I agree that it shouldn't be in the movie. I think it does bring the what's the word, demonicism into it. I think it's a good.
The problem
point.
is with it, and I would agree if you saw other things happen with the environment, which you do see in the second one a little bit more, but in this one, the doors open and close and the windows kind of, you know, shatter and stuff. But other than that, like, you don't see anything else happen. Their other friend does get attacked by the trees, but you don't see it. So I guess it's just kind of strange because most of the other demonic stuff happens because they're attacked by a demon or whatever, or deadites is what they're called later.
But I feel like that's also because it got into Cheryl, and that's why she was able to get possessed, and then that was what bred the other possessions.
Well, and the thing that's weird about it is there's also, like, it's now called, like, the Raimi cam or the Evil Dead cam, and, you know, the movie starts with it, and throughout the movie when someone's, like, running away from stuff, like, you see, like, the camera floating in the woods or over the water or whatever, that's supposed to be the point of view of the demon kind of thing. So it's interesting that the plant, like, it's a little bit more obvious what's going on in the newer one. Like, this movie doesn't really explain other than when the tape is played and then that fucks them all. But, like, you don't really know what's going on. Nobody in this movie really knows.
Yeah, you really had to pay attention to the tape to get your mind around it.
Right. And then what's crazy is the only person who really kind of grasps what's going on is Scotty, who's a dickhead.
Scott's a fucking asshole.
Like, he's an asshole from the very beginning of the movie. Like, he almost gets in a car accident because he's not paying attention, blames it on Ash's steering wheel. And it says, like, the only thing that works is the horn. He starts honking. And then, like, these really nice guys are waving and smiling. He's like, go to hell. I'm not honking at you guys. It's like, they were just waving at you. They were smiling.
I like the
What a
scene
dickhead.
where, like, his girlfriend, like, lets out a scream, and he goes in and checks in on her, and he just sees, like, there's, like, big window is broken and stuff. And, like, he just, like, I feel like he didn't really care. He didn't, like, call out for her or anything. He just looked out. He's like, nope, don't see her.
Also,
All right.
if she screamed, why would it just be him that went in? What is Ash doing just sitting on the couch?
I don't know. Well, Ash is a bitch,
Yeah,
like we said. Like, so
he's,
several times Ash is like, he doesn't want to go down to the cellar. He gets freaked out by the cellar when he's down there. There's a point when, like, Cheryl's attacking Linda, and he doesn't do anything to stop it. Then later on, when Linda is attacking,
Steve?
who's so there was Linda, Cheryl,
And Shelly.
and Shelly. I can't. When Shelly's about to kill Scotty, he's got the axe, and Scotty's like, hit her, and he just like doesn't do it.
Yeah.
So Scotty takes the axe and kills his own girlfriend
Cuts her to
with like
pieces.
no qualms. Like, cuts off her head, cuts off her arms, cuts off her legs, because that's what the tape said to do.
Yep.
It's super. He doesn't give a shit about it, and then he goes to Ash afterwards when he wants to leave, and Ash is like, "We can't leave. Linda can't walk on that ankle," and he's like, "She's your girlfriend. I don't care. You figure it out. I'm leaving," kind of thing. Like, he doesn't give a shit about anybody,
Yeah, dude, he's just in it to survive.
and then he doesn't.
Yeah. Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, this whole podcast is spoilers.
It's called a joke.
This
Michael.
movie's
I'm being
also
facetious,
almost
okay?
40 years old. Fucking
God
idiot.
Damn it. Can we, just before we move on, why did Cheryl even go out into the woods?
Yeah, because she's like, something was calling her. It's like, join us. And she's just like, hello?
Hello, I know you're out
That
there. I'm
was
going to
weird.
chase you into in the night in the woods.
Yeah, so she goes out. I don't know
It's
why.
so great.
That was ridiculous.
The other thing that's, I think it's because the Necronomicon kind of possessed her already, because she was drawing the clock and it stopped, and then it like forced her hand to draw the book.
The book with the face.
Yeah, they go down into the cellar because the cellar door rattles. Are those potatoes hanging? Like, what was hanging from the roof? You guys saw that, right?
They're
No, I
supposed to
think
be
I think I
cats,
missed that.
right? I don't know.
No, that's in the newer
The
one.
new one has cats.
I don't
The
know.
original one looked like potatoes hanging from the ceiling.
I don't know. Can't say.
There's
I
also-
noticed.
Scotty's also a dick even before all this shit goes down, because they find a shotgun and he points it in Ash's
Yeah.
face
What the fuck,
immediately.
Scott?
I love Bruce's acting though. He's like, oh, he like moves it away.
But yeah, this was a weird movie. It goes really quick. So they find the book and a dagger, and then they go, "This kind of looks like your old girlfriend." To Ash. Like, Cheryl wants the book. Like, when they're playing the tape, Cheryl freaks the fuck out, like storms off,
Yeah.
and Ash gets mad at like everybody. They're like, "Dude, you were here too. You could have stopped the tape at any time, but you're too much of a bitch to stand up for yourself." Because Ash is a bitch in this movie.
He totally is.
And then, so they want to go, Cheryl wants to go into town, and the bridge is out, but it's shaped like a claw, which is kind of cool. And then, then the movie just, rips from here. They're playing cards, and Cheryl turns into a demon and, predicts the cards, and she's like, "I'm so good." And then they look, and she's, floating by the door and just says, "One by one, they'll take you." And then she collapses
And
looking like
she's in
human
a
again.
demonic voice, and she's all ghosted out. Her skin's all weird. Her eyes are in the back of their head, and they're like, "What's wrong with her?"
What's crazy about this movie is, so they did all the makeup and the prosthetics themselves, right? The lenses that they used were so thick that it actually put pressure on the eyes and made it where they couldn't get moisture, so they could only wear them for about 15 minutes at a time, and then would have to take them out and have an hour break
Oh wow,
because it fucked their eyes so bad,
great
which
production.
is crazy. Yep. Uh,
I actually really
yeah,
like the design of like the Deadites and the Evil Dead compared to the remake. Like the remake one, they just look like your traditional like possessed like modern day thing. But like
I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, we'll talk about the new one in a little bit. I do agree that Sam Raimi has a distinct style, and these Deadites, and like they look drastically different in this than they do Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness, but you can still see that they're precursors to what they ended up being with the production value getting better. But the production, like that design, even came into like Spider-Man. There was a point where they were going to use like animatronics and like an actual like rubbery mask for the Green Goblin.
Yeah, I saw that.
And there's videos for it, and it looks like it could be from Evil Dead. Even if you look at Spider-Man himself, like the glasses and stuff, the really weird, sharp, like it looks like a Sam Raimi design. So Sam Raimi has a distinct style that I really, really like. I do agree that the Deadites are creepier. I don't even want to say creepier. Like they look more demonic.
Yeah.
In the original films, or in the newer ones, I still think they're creepy. Like how they get the pale skin and the eyes get exaggerated. Like I still think they're like creepier than like other possessed movies like The Grudge and The Ring and stuff like that. I still think the original is kind of creepy, or not the original, the newer one. But I agree that the makeup in this is pretty cool. What are some other highlights for you guys?
I like the way Sam Raimi builds tension with this one. So like he doesn't really. You guys know about like the negative space and like how it's like natural for us to expect something to come into frame the way it is.
Right.
Like he does that really well. Like just like that scene where like I keep thinking something's gonna come through that window because like it's just you see Ash and Scott just talking on the left hand side and it's just like this window, just like pitch black. You can look through outside. And I'm like something's gonna come through. Something's gonna come through. And it just builds that tension, but nothing does. And then you see the POV comes in, and like, oh, it's gonna, and it just messes with you. He does horror like really well. It's just why I also like Drag Me to Hell.
I want to watch that one again. I did see that in theaters and remember being a little disappointed, and then I saw it again when it came out on DVD because I watched it with somebody else. But I kind of want to go back to it because I've heard that it actually ages better.
Yeah, I feel like people may have had like too high of an expectation. But it's still
I think that's true. Having him go back to his roots, because I think every time he does something and he does something new, I think it's pretty good. Like so, these movies were a cult classic, and then he did Darkman, which Darkman's awesome, and then of course Spider-Man, and then I didn't like Oz. I thought it looked too much like a cartoon, but like he was going to do World of Warcraft for a long time, and then he dropped out of that. I think that he could have done a good World of Warcraft movie, but. I still think he's a very talented director, and he doesn't do enough stuff because he's one of the few people that still really do practical effects and likes to have his signature look, which I really do like.
Yeah.
There was one thing I didn't like about this movie is the audio was completely inconsistent. There were times where I had to turn my speakers all the way up just to hear what they were saying, but then the music would kick in and it would be way too goddamn loud. There are points where you really like when they go to Barry Shelley, and Scott wants to leave, and he goes out for the trail and he comes back, and like you couldn't understand a word they were saying. I mean, maybe that was just my copy, but I couldn't understand a big portion of this movie.
No, yeah, I watched it with subtitles because of the effect.
Right. I mean, I always, when I do stuff for the podcast, I always have subtitles on, but I definitely needed them, and I still had to turn it up. I think it's funny that we don't really see what happened to Scotty. Like, he just comes back, and he's like, yeah, all the trees got me.
His wrist bone was sticking out. Like,
yeah.
It was, like, so quick, too. Like, it was like a beat, like, I think Ash did something and then he like knocking on the door.
I don't know what this note means. I think like autocorrect fucked it up because it says shit up snacks Linda around. Oh, I think he says straight up smacks Linda around. Yeah. And laughs. Scotty, kill her. Cheryl, kill her if you can, lover boy. And then Ash bitches out again. That's my note.
Come on, Ash.
I also he goes to kill Linda with the chainsaw and he bitches out and decides to bury her. And then she gets out, and he ends up decapitating her with the shovel.
In self-defense, though.
Yeah. And then, like, that's basically the end of the movie. Like, he just, like, freaks out in the house for, like, 10 minutes while, like, everything starts filling with blood.
And then... the water mirror thing.
Yeah, and then eventually, like, the sun just comes up and, like, everything's good.
You did it, Ash.
Well, and then,
And then
like,
the
you
demon
think
comes.
it's good, and then, like, there's a freeze frame of, or, like, he goes black, and then you see him, like, and then it ends. I mean, I enjoyed this movie. It's a testament to, like Double D said, perseverance. Preservation. What the fuck? am I saying?
Preserve your health. Yes.
Yeah. I have a lot of respect for it because of the amount of work that got put into it and how they did everything themselves. Like, the other thing that's crazy about this is they couldn't get some of the actors back because they hated working on it. There was times where, like, they lived in that house and there was no plumbing, so they would go days without bathing. So, like, the actors did all the stuff with the dialogue, and then eventually they just started getting other people when they were doing, like, the makeup and the prosthetics. They just got other people to play the roles of the demons because they didn't really need the original people back. So they had a bunch of people named Shemp on the the stuff.
Oh, the fake chimps.
Lots of them.
Yeah. Oh, my notes got moved all around. That makes more sense. I was trying to find some stuff and I couldn't. I was like, I know there's more to the end, but my notes got moved to the end. Like, I don't know. It doesn't matter. My notes got fucked up.
The like awesome like book burning and then like they're like disintegrating and shit.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah,
and that pus.
Like,
I was like, oh, it's so gross.
Was there a?
And this was before. This was before Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? When did Raiders of the Lost Ark come out?
I thought that was like, I don't know now. I'm not too sure.
I think that was like 80. It might be the same year, maybe the year prior. 1981, the same year. So it had a very similar effect. And like the one in Raiders, so when the Ark of the Covenant gets open at the end of the movie and like all those Nazis melt, it was like celebrated for like an amazing special effect. And Sam Raimi basically did that on his own with like no money. Like, he did basically the same effect. Now, the Raiders of the Lost Ark one is better, but this one's pretty close. It has, like, more layers and shit, and it's, like, disgusting.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm actually really impressed with that he was able to do that. Do you guys have anything else for this one?
Was there a point to that dagger thing?
No, they
Just
just
a random
stabbed demons with it.
skull dagger.
Dude, that house that they were actually in had a fucked up history.
Oh.
So there was like a
With a
family that
face.
lived there. It was a grandma, a mom, and a granddaughter. And so one day there was a big storm. So the daughter got scared and ran to the mother's room. Mother was dead. Runs into the grandmother's room. Grandmother was dead too. So then she ran to like the neighbor's house, and they weren't dead. Nobody ever lived in
they
that.
were also dead.
But how did they die?
I don't know. That's just the note that I got. All right.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
But yeah.
Deadites.
It's crazy. So, like, the thing that's insane about this movie is Sam Raimi gets all the credit for this movie for doing this, but it turns out, like, Bruce Campbell did so much for it. Like, he helped set up shots, he helped with camera work. That opening scene on the lake when you just see, like, the camera moving, he was in the water pushing Sam Raimi in a boat to get that effect.
Oh, wow.
He put up his house as collateral. He's also the one who paid for to make the film 35mm so it can get a theatrical release. Like, he did all this stuff to make this happen. Like, he's a really good friend. I wish I had a friend like Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that for you, Mike.
I wouldn't do that for you.
Well,
either.
great.
I don't have a house to put up for collateral for you. Because we're millennials and our parents and our grandparents fucked the economy for us.
Yeah.
Especially your family, Double D. Your family has money. I blame them.
Well, I don't.
I do.
All right.
All right. You guys want to go into the original or the not
new
the original?
one.
We already did the original. You guys want to go to the remake?
Evil Dead, 2013.
Fede Alvarez.
All right. So this is from Claudio. David, his drug-using sister Mia, and his friends Eric, Olivia, and Natalie. And if you notice, it spells out demon, not the friends. Travel to an isolated cabin that belonged to his parents to spend a couple of days together. Mia promises to stop using drugs, and Olivia, who is a nurse, promises to help Mia in abstinence. They discover a hidden basin with witchcraft and the Book of the Dead. And Eric reads it, unintentionally summons an evil force. Mia, Olivia, and Natalie are possessed by evil. And Eric reads the book trying to learn how to destroy the demon. That's it.
Yeah, I guess so. So I have a couple questions right off the bat for you guys on this movie. Because there's a few things I really don't understand. So this is supposed to be David and Mia's family, vacation home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So when does that opening scene take place? Because the opening of this movie is you see this really pretty girl running around in the woods, and then you see these redneck guys grab her and put her in a bag and bring her back. So I'm thinking these guys are abducting her to do a ritual,
which I also like it twists that.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Resident Evil 7. Obviously this came out before Resident Evil 7, but a very similar vibe. And then it turns out her, they're like, "What are you doing? Daddy, what are you doing?" He's like, "You killed your mother, and we have to do this." And then she's turns into the demon and yells at him, and then they burn her. And then the movie starts with them driving to the cabin. When did that burning thing take place?
I'm assuming it happened
recent.
Soonish, recent, because he said they smelled it smells, and something was burning here and stuff.
And it didn't seem like those cats. I mean, I feel like if they were there for a long time after being burnt, they would have disintegrated by then.
I don't know. It's just strange because they mentioned them going there as kids. So at first I was thinking oh, this is a long time ago, and then but then they mentioned that the family owned it and they went there all the time. So it would have had to been at least within the last couple of years. But why the fuck did that witch lady leave the book?
I think they figured it was abandoned because they clearly broke into it. I don't know.
Yeah, they did clearly break into it. They mention it later on, but I'm saying, why did they leave the book?
Yeah. What else are they going to do with it?
Take it with them.
Bury it? Put it. Don't just leave it in a cabin that some
what is this, Jumanji?
Drunk teenagers might go into.
Jumanji.
This is scary Jumanji.
Can I would just like to make the statement that I did not like any of these characters.
No. The thing about this movie has very mixed reviews. People either love this movie or they hate it. A lot of people who are fans of the original fucking hate this movie because they say it doesn't add anything and it doesn't have the humor from the original, which if you're a really big fan of the original, you should recognize that the original wasn't meant to be funny. And then they just kind of embraced the funniness for the second and third. But the original wasn't meant to be funny. This is what the original was supposed to be.
That horror movie.
Exactly.
I feel like the remake had the unfortunately had to follow the sequel and Army of Darkness. If those two movies didn't happen, then you just people are oh yeah, comparing this one to the original, it's a pretty adequate
and I think that's the problem. I don't think too many people really have love for the first Evil Dead. I think they have love for Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness and just the character of Ash Williams.
Yeah. Yeah, at first watching this movie, I was like, why didn't they name him Ash? And then finishing the movie, I'm glad they didn't name him Ash.
There was supposed to be a remake that came out 10 years earlier in 2003, and they wanted to get, I know it was Ashton Kutcher, or I can't remember the other person. There was somebody else who was attached to it at 1.2, and they were going to have actually an Ash Williams character. But Bruce Campbell really didn't want that. And so in this version, they decided not to do that, and then he kind of gave his blessing on this one. So he's actually listed as a producer, so is Sam Raimi. You guys know that Bruce Campbell was in this movie, right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, he's in a post-credit scene, Double
end.
D.
Oh, I didn't pay attention.
So, yeah, the original intent for this movie was to have this movie, and then they were going to do an Army of Darkness 2, which was actually going to be a sequel to this one. And then they were going to have a third movie with a crossover with Bruce Campbell and Mia in this one. And then it ended up not working out. But yeah, Bruce Campbell's at the very end of the movie, the post credits, he just looks at the camera and says groovy.
All right. Yeah, I did not.
So this movie's supposed to be in the same continuity as the original as well. These are all supposed to be in the same universe. And the thing is with Army of Darkness also, even if it was in the same universe, there is interdimensional shit. Army of Darkness has crossed over with the Marvel Universe and Marvel Zombies.
Yeah.
There's been a ton of Army of Darkness stuff, so it's really easy for these things to they could have merged them at any point. But any highlights of this movie for you guys?
I actually like that they explain more of the demon, like deadites and stuff like that.
They do, but also like maybe you guys can answer this. I tried looking up online and nobody can come to like a consensus. I want to see your guys' opinion. So, Eric, I feel kind of bad for that character, the guy with the long hair. He gets fucked up throughout this movie.
But it was also his fault.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's definitely his fault. He's the one who conjured everything. But he explains that he accidentally summoned the demon that's called the Abomination, and it needs 5 souls, and then it'll come forward in a rain of blood or something like that.
Yeah.
So the internet cannot figure out where the 5 souls came from. So there was 5 people there total, right?
I think it already took Mia's soul.
Right. So that's the thing where some people disagree that it had her soul, but she was redeemed, but it still counts because Eric was still around and hadn't been burned yet, so it came up before. But also so if you count her, David was never possessed, so it can't be him. So even if you count Mia, there's Eric, Olivia, and Natalie. So that'd be 4. So some people count the dog Grandpa.
I guess.
And then some people say, no, you don't count Mia or Grandpa. You count Eric, Olivia, Natalie, and then the girl from the beginning of the movie and her mother. And that's the 5. But the fact that he had to read, I would think that it starts a whole cycle over again.
Yeah, I would think so too.
So you would have to count Grandpa.
But even if you counted the original 2, you wouldn't have had to wait for... Well, I guess Eric dying would have been the last one, right?
Eric would have been the 5th.
Yeah, but
if
no,
you
I
don't
think
count
I
Mia
think it
or
would have
Grandpa.
restarted when it was summoned again.
Exactly. That's how I would think about it. But yeah, I don't really know. It's kind of weird, and it's kind of vague where it says a soul needs to be consumed. It doesn't mean possessed. It doesn't mean killed because technically David and Grandpa were never possessed.
Yeah.
So you can't count them. So then you'd have to count Mia, but you'd still be one short. So maybe maybe just being killed while this is going on counts.
Yeah, I think so.
But it didn't happen until the house blew up.
Yeah, and that's after David died.
But the thing is, burning is supposed to purify and not count, right?
In this one?
No,
that's what they said. That's
because the book didn't burn in this one.
Well, no, you don't have to burn the book. Like, he actually tries to burn the book, and it doesn't work. Which is one of many nods. So, like, this one has a lot of nods to the original franchise.
Yeah.
But no, what I mean is he actually says there's 3 ways to put an end to this. Purify by fire, so you have to burn them alive.
Yeah.
A live burial, which is
what
how
I took is that
Mia gets redeemed.
It's Mia that you have to do those for. For the Deadites, it doesn't matter.
No, it still matters because they say specifically dismemberment, burial, or fire is the only way to do that. So I mean, I guess you might be right. It is a little bit different because Olivia, they just bashed her head in.
Yeah.
Natalie was technically dismembered. Like she lost both of her arms. I don't really know. Like it's in one way this movie tries to explain things, but then they also make it really vague, where it's like I don't really understand how the final demon actually got summoned, and what the point of it was supposed to be. Like, what is the grand plan of the demon coming forth?
Well, I think after it killed Mia, it would have gone after the rest of the world, right? It said wrath upon the world or something like that.
So at that point, would it keep infecting people? Because obviously Mia was infected the whole time until she got buried alive and then brought back to life. So there was a point where you had her and Natalie, or her and Olivia, or her and Eric possessed at the same time. Would it have just kept spreading? Because it seems like she was able to take it out with a chainsaw by herself, missing a limb. I feel like somebody could destroy her.
Yeah.
Or the Abomination. Like, it didn't seem like that big of a deal.
No, yeah, she was able to take it out with the chainsaw. Like, if she was attacking an army, she would have died immediately.
Army of chainsaws.
You wouldn't even know, but I mean, like,
how did? Oh wait, the puke on Olivia, right? That's how she got it.
yeah, the puke on Olivia. So that's the thing that's really vague. So basically, it's my understanding in the Evil Dead universe, and this is supposed to take place in the same universe as the originals. The way that you can pass like the Deadite kind of possession on is, and it's not just one demon, that there's a series of demons and there are more powerful ones and blah 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 blah, but it's through like direct contacts, like the vomit or Natalie getting bitten, or having an extremely violent act done from a Deadite to you. Because Eric doesn't actually get bitten or have any fluids, but he just gets the shit beat out of him. And may I just say, he deserved it because he was a terrible fucking actor.
Yeah, yeah, he was.
That guy was awful. But I do feel bad for, like, I remember going into this movie thinking, I'm like, I remember this guy getting fucked up more than anybody else. Like, every single one of them did shit to him. So, like, he goes into the bathroom to check on Olivia, who's, like, cutting her face off.
Yeah.
And she stabs him with, like, a 12-inch piece of glass. And then she stabs him in the face over and over again with a needle. And he has to pull a broken needle out of his face. And then he gets shot like 100 times with a nail gun. And then he gets the shit beat out of him with a crowbar.
His hand is like
And
split
then
in
he
half.
gets stabbed again. Oh, man. He got the shit beat
And
out
then
of
when
him.
he actually dies, David just puts him in the
He
water.
just-
What the hell?
How did he even get down there? So the thing is, like, there's a point when, after getting shot like a bunch of times and his head getting, like, you can see 2 giant chunks of his head missing from the crowbar attack. See, he puts him outside against the Jeep, and he says, he's like, don't die on me. He's like, you know what? Dying sounds pretty good right now.
Yeah.
I'd rather die than become a devil's bitch or something like that. How does he get all the way down into the cellar in that condition and enough to, like, throw a demon to prevent David from being drowned?
Perseverance.
No.
All adrenaline.
Honestly,
this
I think
movie
this
actually
would-
made me question adrenaline a lot. Like, how far does adrenaline take you?
Right.
Like, for Mia, how can you pull off your hand and still have enough strength to chainsaw a face?
I liked it.
Honestly, like, this movie, so I'm not, this is a weird thing with me. Like, I don't like gory movies, and, like, human body doesn't bother me. Like, I've worked on a cadaver before. I've done dissections and stuff like that. Like, I watch medical surgeries on, like, YouTube and stuff. Like, that stuff doesn't bother me at all. But things like this actually do bother me. I don't like gore for the sake of
Maybe
just gore.
that's why
No,
I
I'm
like it.
not.
Like I love horror movies. I love gory movies. Like I don't like torture porn. I don't like that.
No, but I mean, this gets
But-
close to that, where it's just graphic for the sake. Like when she licks
like it reminds me of
the
like
box
David
cutter.
Cronenberg and like Body Melt, and I just love it. Like the body horror and stuff like that. It's
Well, like, I like body horror to an extent. Like, I love The Fly.
oh yeah, and The Fly.
I love that movie. But this one, like, when she licks the box cutter and splits her tongue in 2, I just don't like. And then
and all the effects were all
cutting off her
practical.
Yeah, cutting
mostly
off her arm.
practical. Yeah.
That's one thing that the director really wanted to make sure he did, was a lot of practical.
Well, he did it.
effects.
Well, he used CG in a bunch of his other movies. He did it specifically because Sam Raimi did the original
Yeah.
of practical. So the only real CG they did on this was to add, like, fire effects and then to CGI out the wires when they, obviously, like, people get thrown around and stuff like that. I don't know if the Deadites or the Possessed are as strong in this one as they are in the original, because they're uninhibited and the others don't really want to hurt the people until they understand what's going on. But, like, they're able to throw these people around quite a bit and defend themselves. So I don't know if these Deadites are as strong as they are in, like, the other Evil Dead franchises and movies, but I definitely liked how this one still kind of stuck with the how the demons will, like, shift back into looking like a human to, like, fuck with the regular humans, but then also just get, like, super fucking angry and dirty. Like, there's a point where she was like, I wrote down some of the lines, but there's like,
oh, and she's talking to her brother.
Yeah, when she's talking to her brother, like, "Hey, pretty boy, let me suck that dick," or something like that. It's fucking weird. But then there's another part. She licks the box cutter, and then like starts like kissing Natalie's legs.
Yeah,
kiss me, you dirty cunt. And then so David comes and like, what are you doing? Why are you down there? And she goes, why don't you come down here so I can suck your cock, pretty boy? Mia isn't here. Your sister's getting raped in hell. And I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah, gnarly.
Like, there's a lot of like fucked up dialogue like that.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot more in this one than the original.
And then like the other thing that's weird about this movie is they're like the whole movie, and Eric does call him out on this, but David's like, maybe it's just like Mia's going crazy. Like my mother went crazy, and I've always been afraid that might happen. Maybe this is like her just going insane. And they're like, but that doesn't explain Olivia cutting her face off. She was like, maybe those dead cats have a virus. And Eric's like, you're just a fucking pussy, bro. And initially, I thought one thing that I like about this movie is I thought that David was going to be like this version's Ash.
Well,
right?
they even
Because
dress
he's
him
kind
up
of
as like he's wearing like the blue shirt and stuff like that. So,
right. Well, and he also gives somebody a necklace. So he gives his sister a necklace. In this, in the original, he gives his girlfriend
the
a necklace.
We forgot to talk about in the original. It's so dumb. I'm like,
Is it a magnifying glass?
It's a magnifying
yeah, it was
glass.
a magnifying glass.
Like a
monocle.
monocle.
This one is just like a loop.
Yeah.
But they, he gives the necklace, and then he's also kind of a bitch and doesn't want to do anything. Like he never really has to do anything until he finally shoots his girlfriend's arm off. But like, he kind of lets his friend get fucked up multiple times before finally doing something. And then he's like too much of a bitch to burn Mia, so he buries her alive. And he makes like this super crude defibrillator, which looks fucking scary as hell. Like, it's two like syringes that he hooks up to a battery and stabs her heart, and then just
I looked at it, I was like,
flips the switch.
It looks cool, but what's the practicality on that?
I don't know if that would actually work. There are a lot of nods to the original in this one. So of course, like the necklace thing, and this one's like not just nods to the original, but the first two movies
like
overall. So like, of course, you having the chainsaw and the shotgun, having the electric knife to cut off the hand that happens in the second one. There's more. I can't think of them right now. They at the end of the movie they have the recording from the original movie
playing.
The credits. There's also when it says like 1 by 1 you'll all die tonight, they actually dubbed Mia's voice with the original recording of the same line. So there are a lot of nods to the original in these movies. Of course, the bridge going out and stuff like that. It's pretty the rape scene, the vine rape scene in this one. This one was a little bit more like the demon actually possessed her through that, like a black sludge climbed up into her hoo-ha.
Yeah. Hoo-ha.
You know what's another fucking stupid thing in this movie?
David.
And, well, yeah, David. I mean, most Davids are fucking stupid.
God, stupid Davids.
So, there's a point where he's gonna burn down the place, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he bitches out, and then he goes and buries her.
Because of a song.
So, right. So she starts singing like this lullaby. So he comes back to like go get the car keys. Why did he not already have the car keys in his pocket? So because he had to go get the car keys, he gets like stabbed in the neck by Eric. And then he decides to blow up the house by shooting the gas tank with the shotgun. Why did he not already have those keys? He was going to burn the house down with not have the keys.
He's just going to walk across the creek.
Oh, man. And I liked this movie. Like, the acting is not great. I think the acting is fine, except for the actor who played Eric. I thought he was really bad. Like, there's one line he just delivered that made me cringe. It's like, towards the beginning of the movie, as shit just started happening, Olivia, right, says something like, why are you being a dick to him? You missed him. He goes, because, like, I haven't seen him in, like, a freaking century. You sound like Napoleon Dynamite.
Dude, I feel like.
Oh, man. That last scene, though, with the abomination is pretty cool, though. Like, flips the car on her hand. Yeah. I don't understand how the abomination was able to flip that Jeep with one hand.
Yep.
But then later on, like, it got its, like, legs crushed, right? Right?
Chainsawed.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
it
so,
was like
yeah.
she cut him.
Yeah, so and it took forever to crawl over. Like, that thing's got like crazy upper body strength. I feel like it could have like
It's just toying with her.
like just clawed the floor and like leapt.
Also, how did it
Or
not
just-
hear her under the car with the chainsaw?
Right? I don't know.
True.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
It's. I mean, there's a lot of things about this movie that are questionable. I think it's basically what Sam Raimi tried to do originally. Is the best way to put it.
And why was Olivia such like a shitty nurse? Like, why?
She wasn't that shitty of a nurse. There was demonic
She was
shit
just so
happening.
stubborn. Like, why wouldn't they take her to a fucking hospital?
Because so as they explained at the beginning of the movie, Double D, is the whole point of going cold turkey is like you got to see it through, and she didn't see it through, and their friend died at one point. So like they wanted, like, she's right that if there wasn't demonic shit going on, she would have been 100% right. You know, like, hey, she's just trying to get out of here. She's gonna say and do anything to get out of here. Like, she even went as far as saying that she probably ran into the vines on purpose so she could have a reason to leave. So, like, I mean, she was doing what she thought in her professional opinion was
See,
right.
I like that aspect also, where like it's like, oh, she's a drug user. Like you kind of like, oh, she's like isolated. Like they think that she's trying to,
and no one's gonna believe her. I think they could have leveraged that a little bit more and built a little bit more tension. Like, if the dead, because basically once she flipped, she stayed in like evil form for almost entire. She tricks Natalie like once, and then she sings to the brother like once. But like, it would have been a little bit more. It could have been a little bit more interesting to do that drug addict thing where like maybe some weird shit starts happening and she does some weird shit as the demon, but then pretends to be human and they don't really believe her.
Yeah.
Or maybe just weird shit happened. Or maybe if they did it a little bit different, where like she wasn't the one possessed and she started seeing like weird shit and they didn't believe her and until like somebody else got possessed. Or like maybe it could have been interesting if maybe one of the others got possessed and she killed them and then like they got pissed at her because they're like, oh, she just is having withdrawals and went fucking crazy. Like, they could have done a lot more with that aspect, but they made it really simple.
Also, did having the demon expunged from her also heal her body? Like, she was not
Right.
going through withdrawals at all. Her face wasn't burnt anymore. Like,
Yeah, because she went through the scalding. How does a shower even get that hot? Holy shit.
showers get pretty hot. I'm pretty.
But yeah,
my
she
shower
scalds her
gets pretty hot.
face. Plus having the tongue
Yeah.
cut up and all that stuff and all the, I don't know. One thing that always bothers me about these kind of movies is, you know, I can see back in like the 1920s and prior, you know, if shit like this happened, like you would just leave another town, like they didn't have the internet and stuff like that. But like, they're going to be like, where did all your friends go? Like,
Yeah.
they would just assume she killed all her friends. Like, that's the thing that these like scary movies never really address is like for the lone survivor. And especially like there's a difference in something like Halloween or Scream where it's in like a town or whatever. But like these movies where it's like a cabin in the woods or like The Descent or like things where they're on an island or something like that. Like you come back and you're the only one, like you're definitely going to be arrested.
Yeah, if all your friends are dead, there's a cabin on fire, and you don't say anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just a few things about this movie. They shot this film. So most movies are not shot in like in order from beginning to end because, you know, it's not always the most cost effective way to do that, you know, actor schedules. But this movie, they decided to shoot in order so that way they wouldn't have to clean blood off the sets.
Interesting.
So, yeah, so they shot this 95% in order. Sam Raimi was like totally on board with them doing this movie. The only person who didn't really want it was that Bruce Campbell, because he didn't really want anyone else to play Ash. But when they decided to not have Ash in it, then he was like totally okay with it. But yeah, once again, I just think that I don't think Bruce Campbell gets enough credit for like this franchise. You guys can respond if you want.
I don't know what you said.
Yeah, he kind of.
You didn't hear me?
No, you cut out.
Oh, weird. What was the last thing you heard me say?
I don't think Bruce Campbell gets enough credit.
No, that was it. I
Oh,
stopped.
that was-
Say more.
Oh, yeah, I thought you were gonna say more.
No, I was just saying, like, he doesn't get enough credit for this.
I
for
mean,
what
yeah,
he's done for this
I
series.
agree.
I haven't done as much research as you did, Mike, but it sounds like Ash had a lot to do with the success.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's because of him that the series got made, and I think yeah, it's unfortunate that I don't want to say it's unfortunate. Like Sam Raimi obviously wrote and directed and came up with all the shots. Like Sam Raimi did 99% of the work, but I think that if it wasn't for Bruce Campbell, it's still that 99% wouldn't have been possible, kind of thing. So I just want to give a shout out to Bruce Campbell. I appreciate you, and I'm sure your buddy Sam appreciates you as well.
I don't feel like I feel like everyone loves Bruce Campbell. Like I remember when I went to Comic-Con, when he was doing Burn
Well, people
Notice.
love him.
Was it Burn Notice? I think it was Burn Notice.
Yeah, he was on Burn
yeah,
Notice.
It was like a huge crowd and it was great. Like he definitely he gets mad props.
People love him. But the thing is, so he's in the Spider-Man movies, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's in the Spider-Man movies because it's Sam Raimi. He should be, thankful for Sam Raimi." I think honestly, Sam Raimi needs to be thankful for Bruce Campbell. That's all I'm saying. He might be. I'm not saying that Sam Raimi is not appreciative of his friend. I'm just saying, if I had a friend like Bruce Campbell, I would let him know that he's a great friend. I'd be like, "Bruce, you're a good guy. I owe everything to you, bud."
Everything.
Everything.
Yep. Everything. All right. Anything else you guys want to talk about?
I think we need to answer the question.
Yeah, we do. Do you guys think this needed to happen? Was it a necessary remake?
No.
No, you don't think so?
I'm not going to say it was a bad movie, but I don't think it needed to be remade. And if it was remade, which it was, I would have preferred a shot-for-shot remake.
It was pretty close, though.
Yeah, similar, but I don't know.
I think if you were to do exactly the same movie, I think people would be upset because it was just there are some movies where you do a shot for shot, like Beauty and the Beast, the live action version, where it was amazing seeing something from your childhood put on the screen. But I think a scary movie, you want to see that, because the thing about scary movies and horror movies is there's a shock value, and if it's exactly the same as the original, then there's not going to be anything shocking or scary.
Yeah.
So you need to have some different stuff. I think it's nice to see something closer to what Sam Raimi originally wanted. I think it would have been interesting if Sam Raimi made it.
Yeah, that definitely would have made it more valuable to me.
Right.
Alex?
What about you, Alex?
I didn't think it needs to be remade. Like the Evil Dead first one's still pretty good. But I didn't hate the remake. If anything, it's what you would want. I feel like it's updated, so it's it adds a bit more things, but I guess it also leaves things more vague.
I think it's also faithful to what it is,
and the prosthetics and the practical effects are definitely upped the ante. It's pretty neat what they do. I liked it. I enjoyed it.
Excellent. So the director of this, Fede Alvarez, is actually working on a remake of Labyrinth. I don't know. I wonder if he's gonna make it dark like this. Because that could be an interesting take, going from the David Bowie with Jim Henson puppets to this.
I've actually never seen Labyrinth.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, weird. You should watch it. It's definitely worth a watch. It's got young Jennifer Connelly in it, super cute.
Go on.
And David Bowie. Young Jennifer Connelly. So we just watched The Rocketeer for Ruin My Childhood a couple episodes back.
Yep.
Jennifer Connelly is a young girl. Yeah, as a young woman, is gorgeous.
I will not I don't feel bad with that statement.
Good. You can't.
I can't. You're right.
Nobody.
I cannot. I'd be lying.
Nobody can disagree with that statement. Anyway, thank you guys for listening to Remake Rewind. You guys can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at MDXpods. We're also on Facebook. You can check out the website, MDXpods.com. If you want to support the show, chip in $1 or $2 or whatever, help us out. We do have rewards on patreon.com /MDXpods. And check out our other podcast, Ruin My Childhood, with myself and Kat. She's the one who guest hosted she's been on here several times, so just check out that podcast as well. Thanks for listening.
Persevere, my friends.
Double D, we did a poll.
Yeah.
Our listeners are not your
All right,
friends.
persevere, my listeners.
All right, bye.
Later.
Yeah, bye.